and we use the microphone so it can be picked up. Lamario, will you give me a thumbs up when we're live? We're live, okay. Welcome, everybody. This is our second Buda Chats, our new quarterly town hall meeting that we are doing in an effort to keep our citizens engaged and in the know of what's happening here in the city of Buda. And we thank y'all for coming out this evening. We do have just a few of our directors here this evening. You saw Isabel helping register people. She's executive assistant to the city manager's office. Lamario Smith is our communications director. She's in the booth in the back. This evening, you'll hear from Melissa McCollum, our development services director, and our police chief, Bo Kidd. But again, what is Buda Chats? It's just a quarterly town hall meeting to provide updates on different things happening in the community with the goal of creating a well-connected community and increasing community engagement. And something I'll ask again at the end of the session, but what types of things you want to learn about the city? We'll work that into the fold as we go through these each quarter. But these are the topics we're going to talk about tonight. We always like to start with new development, or we talk about new developments happening around town. That seems to be the main interest point of people, and asking questions about those things. We are in the middle of our fiscal year 2024 budget process, so I'm going to talk briefly about that, provide some updates on capital projects we have going around in the city. Chief Kidd will talk about neighborhood crime statistics and things happening in the Buda Police Department. And as we're now in the heat of summer, we'll talk about water conservation as well as some changes that the City Council implemented related to our water conservation ordinance this last Tuesday. And then we'll round it out with upcoming community events, some other news and questions. So Melissa, if you will hop up here, we'll start with development around town. And as y'all have questions, just feel free to raise your hand and stop us. You don't need to wait until the end.
All right, well, thank you very much. Kind of some development highlights and stuff in construction. I wanted to talk about the Stream development. It is almost 80-acre development. It's right south of Goforth on the west side of 35. So it is currently in the construction process. They are building new streets as well as starting to put up some new buildings. It is a large kind of light industrial site, and they're looking at just under 1 million square feet that'll be under buildings at that property. Next thing coming up on the east side, this has gone through site development. It has not quite gone through building permits yet, but it is approved with the city. It's called the Corner on Main. It is east of 35, east on Main Street, right at the northwest corner of Main and Firecracker. So they're looking at a mixed retail commercial development in that area, a little over, or right at 7 buildings at 52,000 square feet about. And then some projects that we have going on 1626, and again, this is west, so it'll be 1626 at a little bit north of Coal Springs. If you would step that out to the right hand of the screen, you can see a Buda office complex. That project has gone through site development and I believe building permits very soon. They're looking at multiple kind of smaller office buildings on that site, right at like 76,000 square feet. And then another project that has done some presentations before City Council about upcoming potential future development is called West Oak, and that's kind of shown on the bottom left-hand side of the screen there. And that is looking at a mixed horizontal development, being commercial up on 1626 and then having some residential behind that in the back. So if you're looking at this West Oak drawing, 1626 is on the bottom of the screen, and then north would be to the right. Some hopeful development that has been planned, approved for site plan, but has not quite started the building process yet is a new development called Rackfit. It's a little under a 6-acre project off of Robert S. Light. So that Project would be on the east side of Robert S. Light, towards I-35 a little bit more, and it would be a fitness and recreational facility, so pickleball, tennis courts, anything rack related. And they're looking at having a 35,000 square foot building. Another industrial development, and right off of 35, right at in front of the Stonefield residential subdivision. It's often called Marlstone or Stonefield 35, and this is located outside of the city, but they did go through the development process with us here at the city, and it is a 23-acre development, and they're looking at building light industrial buildings over here. And you can kind of see right off, they have a new gas station that just recently opened that is a different phase, but has recently constructed over there. And they're looking at 275,000 square feet. And the Frito-Lay office warehouse is looking at a tenant that would be moving in at this location. Some multifamily that's coming in to town east. Both these projects are east of 35. One of them in the lower left-hand corner is called Sunfield Slate. They have gone through the site plan process, and they will be pulling building permits very soon as well. It is located right next to that Dahlstrom charter school, or not Dahlstrom, excuse me. The charter school that's located right off of Firecracker there. Durrell, thank you. Durrell Charter School, so it will be located right next to there, and then some of the recent, we call it United Properties, or some of those light industrial development that's done right on Firecracker Lane, so this will be kind of one of the last gaps in that area being put into place over there. And then Pros Multifamily is off of 2001, south of Sunfield. That's kind of that blue area that's on the map. And they're looking at having some multifamily units there as well. I did not have a location map, but we recently had a grand opening for City Limits Subaru, and that is actually located east of 35 at the very kind of northern edge of what would we call the Buda area, and Turnersville, the northeast corner of Turnersville, and the I-35 frontage road east of 35, and that project's well underway, and you can actually see that building going up now. That's a photo right now, but they are in construction of that building. Some projects that have opened this year, one is Airstream, and Buda is home to an Airstream dealership. They've always been sold out of Buda, but we had some recent owners that bought that RV dealership and built a whole new building for that. So they're redeveloping that site. It's currently sells RVs and trailers, but they're redeveloping it with this Airstream dealership, and then also redeveloping the second phase for future. Some kind of new restaurants or quick service restaurant that we had come into town this year that is actually already open is a Dutch Bros Coffee that's on Main Street, again, east of 35, just a couple lots down on Main Street before you hit Firecracker there, and that's open and ready for business. Stuff going on downtown that's a little bit on the newer side. Taste on Main is now open. They are mostly open for evenings, but they are open for lunch on Mondays and Fridays, and through the weekend they do brunch as well. J Park Saloon and Standard is also open. That's located on Main Street, but this building actually faces Austin Avenue, but you can access it through Main Street as well, closer to San Antonio. So it's between Main and Austin and San Antonio. And probably that's gotten the most flair recently this week is Valentina's Tex-Mex. So that's a long-awaited location at the Buda Mill and Grain, and they are now open and ready for business. So restaurants that we've really had come online this year, I mentioned Dutch Bros. We also have a quick service restaurant, Taco Clem. It's a drive-through. It's actually the fast food service of Jalisco's. It's located east of 35, just a couple lots up from Dutch Bros, and where the Popeyes and Starbucks is over there. Again, highlighted Taste on Main, J Park Saloon, and Valentina's. Some coming soon restaurants that are looking at pulling building permits or certificate of occupancies, we call them, is Joaquin's Cafe. That will actually be located downtown on Main Street, actually right next to the Summer Moon building and the Carrington House there. There's a small little opening that they're looking at building a new building at that location. So that'll be brand new. Wingstop's looking at opening or off of Main Street and Old San Antonio Road in that shopping center where there's currently like a little Thai food restaurant in there. And then Taqueria Chapala is looking at being a partner with a gas station. So that'll be some new little restaurants coming in. And we have several commercial remodel applications that have come in. And again, these are commercial businesses that have looking to remodel and locate in Buda. And then these are the certificate of occupancies issues. So they're not as fun as they include some of the restaurants again that we had and Airgas, but Northern Tool and Equipment has opened up, CGS Solar, Tint World. So all of these are new businesses or that have new certificate of occupancies that have come in this calendar year. And that's really kind of my highlights for stuff coming around town. Please.
There's a new development on just the other side of Bradfield Village Park.
Oh, that's the well. Yes.
So what is that?
So that's called the well. I should have included that. You're right. That's kind of a fun development. It's commercial. They're looking at having first phase will be a little office building more towards the rear of the lot, and then they're looking at like a little strip center of retail that will hug the kind of the current retail right across the street. If you send me, if you want to kind of see the site plan of it, feel free to email me and I'll send that over to you so you can take a look.
As I mentioned, the city is in the middle of its budget process. And if you're a numbers person, you'll enjoy this next part. If you're not a numbers person, we'll wake you up when we're done. But the budget process for the city is really a year-long process. Our fiscal year starts October 1 of each year. And by March, the finance department has gotten our forms ready and instructions sent out. In May, departments are submitting their budget requests. And then June, July, and August is when council is meeting and deliberating and providing feedback on the budget. So last week we had our first budget workshop with the city council. We'll have a one in July that's a lot more detailed. Those are open to the public if anybody wants to come and hear about those. And then in August, the budget is officially submitted to city council. It's placed on the city's website. And then we schedule public hearings in September on the tax rate and the budget for adoption, which occurs in September before we start over again in October 1 with our new fiscal year. We held a strategic planning workshop with council back in March, and these are the priorities that the city council gave to staff related to the upcoming budget. And these priorities have been pretty consistent over the last few years. The priorities are mobility, sidewalks and infrastructure, road maintenance program, trail sidewalk gaps, and bond program. You'll hear more about the bond program in just a moment. For parks, we have some electrical issues out at our new city park that we're working to repair. We have a sportsplex out at 1626 and 967. We've been making a lot of investment in repairs out there. And then as part of the bond program, we're building Garrison Park, which is just north of City Park. For public safety, just continuing to lean into the ideals of community policing, making sure our officers are present in the community and that we have great relationships with the community. Under the development process and improvements in economic development, we've been on a quest over the last year or so to really be open and communicative about the development process, making improvements to the development process to try to improve our review times. We've done a lot of focus on retail recruitment, and you're kind of seeing that in some of the things that are happening around town. And then we're making a lot of effort in our FM 1626 corridor. We're in the midst of redoing or updating our comprehensive plan, as well as a new downtown master plan, and all of that fits into the 1626 corridor as well. With all of the things coming into downtown, we're looking to expand parking options in downtown. We did a parking study about a year and a half ago, and we're looking to find ways to implement more parking opportunities in downtown. Of course, maintaining a low tax rate is a priority for the city council. As a new resident to Buda, you probably don't know yet, but your tax bill is one of the lowest in the state at 34 cents per $100 of value. We like to brag about that. And then cities as a whole are struggling with retention. I think industries in general are struggling with retention. We've seen high turnover following COVID. People are more mobile, so we want to make sure we're keeping good employees here with the organization. We've had a lot of focus on grant funding as well. This year in the budget, we hired a grant coordinator, or a grant consultant, I should say. And then we're looking to expand our public arts program as well. Our council just recently appointed an arts commission. I guess they're about 8 months old now, so they're looking at ways to expand our arts program around the community. This is our general fund, and if you know anything about local government, the general fund is kind of exactly what it sounds like, the general fund. It's the catch-all of your governmental services. So things like administration, finance, development, planning, engineering, police, streets and drainage, all of those things are funded out of the general fund. For fiscal year 24, we're expecting revenues of about $16.6 million. The majority of our revenues, you can see, are taxes. So general fund is your property tax as well as sales tax. In Buda, the majority of our taxes actually come from sales tax and not property tax, which is why we're able to keep our property tax as low as we do. Permits and licenses, that's revenue generated by the development process. We are seeing a little bit of a decrease right there. We don't have large-scale residential projects. There's a lot of things in the works and being talked about, but nothing's been approved by council yet, so we don't count those revenues yet. And you can see some of the other stuff on there. But our categories, again, most of our employees with the city are paid out of the general fund, so everything except for water and wastewater employees and some of our tourism employees are paid out of here. So you see that being the largest expenditure in the general fund at $10.2 million roughly. Our total expenses projected for next year are $16.2 million, which gives us a ending fund balance of $12.2 million. And I will say that this is only reflective of our base budget requests. And so when we go through the budget process with our departments, we ask them, what is it that you need to continue to offer the same programs and services that you're currently offering? So that's what this reflects. They've also submitted, their long list of we need new trucks, we need new equipment, so that's not reflected in here yet. But those are things that we'll be working on over the next month. Our water and wastewater fund, by difference, are not tax supported, but they're proprietary or operate as an enterprise funds. We have made significant investment in our utility systems over the last couple of years. We completed a $26 million expansion of our wastewater treatment plant that was completed last year. We've brought on a new water supply and infrastructure that goes with that, including a new water tower that I'm going to talk about in a moment. But with that, we are projecting some utility rate increases for both the water and the wastewater fund. So the impact expected for a customer next year, and council's looking at this looking at this critically and seeing if we can drive this down any further. But our rate model right now is projecting an 18% combined rate increase between water and wastewater, which would be about $22.6 per month increase in water and wastewater bills total. Our water fund, we are projecting revenues of just under $7.1 million next year. And again, this is all fee-based, so it's all the water user fees. We do have some investment earnings and things like that factor in as miscellaneous revenue. But unlike the general fund, most of our water and wastewater fund is contracted services. We have staff there, but we're paying for the cost of water. We're paying for the cost of operating our wastewater treatment plant. So you see the cost of $3.1 million. That is our direct cost of providing water service to the community. So it's paying for the water that we drink and use. Related to our infrastructure, we have a bill due of about $1.4 million next year for our infrastructure improvements that we have going on. But we're expecting to end next year with the ending working capital or ending fund balance of just under $2.2 million. Wastewater fund, just like the water fund, is based on user fees and revenue. So you're charged based on how much wastewater you generate. We're projecting revenues of just over 7.7 million in the wastewater fund. And again, designated services and debt service make up the largest portions of the wastewater fund. The designated services being largely the cost to operate our wastewater treatment plant. We outsource that to a company to the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority. They have expertise in running treatment plants, and they run a lot of them in the area, so they have some efficiencies gained by doing that. And then our debt service, as I mentioned, we had a $26 million expansion that was debt funded. So you see the corresponding debt service that will pay that out over the course of the next 20 years related to that expansion. I'll now jump into some capital project updates. In November 2021, our citizens approved a $89.6 million general obligation bond. That bond was primarily for Prop A, transportation, at $73.57 million, and Prop B, parks and recreation, at $16.09 million. I won't go through the list of all the different projects. You can see the different ones on there. If anything catches your eye, let me know and we can talk about it a little bit more. But I did want to provide some updates. So most of our projects were in the design phase. We haven't started on all of them yet. We're waiting on some different factors and getting things lined up on current projects. But a lot of the larger projects were in design. You'll see our survey teams out and about. They are actively surveying roads like Old Black Colony and West Goforth. But we have already completed one project. We added a new pavilion at Green Meadows. That's it, pictured right there. We're actually going to have a ribbon cutting for that project on July 29th, I believe, to showcase that to the community. There's still some sidewalks and some other site work that's occurring with it. We do have a bond website set up so residents can go and see the progress of these different bond projects. If you want to QR scan that with your phone, it probably won't work for those grids, but it's really easy to remember. It's just butabonds.com. And I wanted to show some of the highlights of what we have on that website. This is new. The website's been around since the bond election in 2021, but just over the last 2 months or so, we've added a financial transparency piece. So you can go on and track how we're spending the dollars live. It shows you how much is being spent on each project. This graph that you're seeing is the projection of our spend out of cash over the life of the bond. So, we're in the early phases of design right now, but once we start getting into construction, those payouts will be higher as we're paying contractors, and then it'll dwindle down at the end of the project. You can also look at each project and the anticipated schedule for each project as well. Also, when you go there, you click on any project, it gives you an overview of a description of what the project is, where it's located, and other information pertinent to the project. Some other projects that I wanted to alert everyone about is shown here, but Robert S. Light Boulevard. This is not a City of Buda project. It was completed by a partnership between TxDOT and Hays County, but there is an extension that was open from South Loop 4 all the way out to 1626. Hays County is in the process right now with us. We're a financial contributor to this project to rehab the old portion of Robert S. Light from I-35 to South Loop 4. If you've driven on it, it's a little bumpy. So we're working to fix that. And then once that's completed, Robert S. Light will actually become a state road. It won't be a local road. It'll be a state road. We recently completed a new sidewalk on 967 from the Onion Creek Bridge to downtown. That was completed just around January earlier this year. And then we're working on a new restroom over in Bradfield Park. We've been adding restrooms to several of our parks over the last few years. This is the last one that we have planned right now. It is shown kind of in the red area to be in the parking area at Bradfield Park. There's some design challenges because a lot of Bradfield Park, especially that area, is a drainage way. So we're having to design around that. But that will add a nice restroom for people in Bradfield using the park or people hiking up and down or running up and down Main Street as well. The image below shows you the restroom that we've built over at Stagecoach Park. It'll be a similar design to that. We're also working on a new water tank over in the Old Black Colony area. It will be our largest tank so far at 1.25 million gallons. The picture that's shown there is the tank at Cabela's. That is a 1 million gallon tank for comparison. And this tank will be a similar size or similar shape and design. It's called a composite tank, so it's a concrete pedestal with a metal tank on top. The dimensions are roughly 80 feet wide in diameter and 125 feet tall. We are needing about 180 feet by 180 feet for the construction of this water tank. It won't have chain link fence. We do require masonry, and then it will not be lit except for a safety light on the top and a light at the door for staff that need access to the building to comply with our dark sky ordinance that we have. One of the things, so we've been working on this project since 2018, and we've run into a few, I'd say, brick walls in terms of acquiring property for this project. And so back in March, City Council discussed the idea of possibly locating the water tank in Whispering Hollow Park. We've talked through the pros and cons of doing that with City Council. They then said, go out and talk to the community about it. So we held 2 community meetings in May related to it. We've received quite a strong response to this project, as you may expect, and we're still continuing to look at other sites. But we did have information to show that locating it in the park would be some cost savings. We wouldn't be acquiring land. We wouldn't be using eminent domain and paying lawyer fees and going out and acquiring land. And it actually saves us a little bit of money on pipeline that has to be built as part of it. But we have looked at other sites. We're looking across 1626, and we're looking just up and down Old Black Colony Road. It needs to be located near Old Black Colony Road because there is a water line that's going to feed this tank already in place along Old Black Colony Road. So if we go anywhere else, that means we have to build more line, and the tank has to be at a certain elevation. Old Black Colony Road sits at about 760 to 770 feet above sea level, and that's kind of the sweet spot for this tank. If you drop below about 740 feet, then it becomes much more expensive to construct it because you have to go higher related to the elevation of the tank. But you can see council did ask us to look at sites west of 1626. That does add significant cost for piping, but that's not necessarily a deal breaker. So we're still looking at those sites. And again, we're looking at other sites along Old Black Colony Road as well. We don't have a site picked yet, though. We did have a workshop discussion with council this past Tuesday and shared some information about where we are with the project and heard some more feedback from the community. The new water supply that I hinted at earlier comes online in 2025, and that new water supply will serve or be fed by this, or will go into this tank. So we're trying to get the tank built to come online the same time that water supply is coming online in 2025. This tank will also serve what we call our central plane, our central water pressure zone, which is basically everything east of 1626 until you get to Onion Creek. So Whispering Hollow, Garlic Creek, Elm Grove, Summer Point, Colon Country, kind of that density of homes would be served by this tank. Any questions about any of our capital projects we have going on? We actually have 45 capital projects going on, so I've just kind of skimmed the surface of them. But again, I encourage you to go to butabonds.com and check out the list of our bond projects that we have going on. With that, I'll hand it over to our police chief.
I just have a few slides here. I updated it from the last quarterly meeting we had. So for this year's crimes, this is just through May. So we're not quite halfway into 2023 yet. Nothing really jumps out at me as being more or less, it's kind of consistent with the types of crimes and the amount of crime that we've had in years past. Hasn't changed a whole lot. Earlier you mentioned that you just moved to Bradfield Village. If you want to see the crimes in your subdivision, if you go to our website, go under police department and click the spot crime link, and we update that weekly, so you could check your subdivision or neighboring subdivisions, excuse me, if you wanted to check that out. It is on our website. Okay. We just graduated our second Buda Police Academy last month. That's a 12-week course where you really get a microscopic view of what we do. You meet all the staff and learn about all the police functions. And we offset that every other year with the city's Citizens Academy that they do. We found we were competing for citizens, so we decided to offset it every year. So we just finished ours. Next year there will be a Citizens Academy for the whole city, which we're just one department in that. And then the next year we'll do another Citizens Police Academy. And the only other thing I had on here, the last quarterly meeting, we had just got some flock LPR cameras up. This was done through a grant that we received last year, and our expectations were that it would increase our ability to solve crimes. And that's exactly what we're seeing after a quarter of the use. We have a lot of our crime happens in the retail area, like between Cabela's and H-E-B and Walmart, that whole area. So we have cameras over there, and quite often we'll have thefts or vehicle burglaries, and there might be a description, but it's just it could be a white truck or and sometimes through their surveillance cameras, there might be we could get a still shot of a person, but we could never get workable leads with a license plate. So they've actually helped us solve several crimes in that area that we would not have had a workable lead otherwise. So we're moving into our second quarter of their use, and we're excited what we've seen and accomplished so far, and looking forward to continuing with that. I think that's all I have. Do y'all have any questions for police?
One of the things on there was terrorist threats. There were 50 of them. What is that? What is a terrorist threat? That's probably not a good term. Terrorism means a lot of things. Yeah. It is a threat that the victim that is capable of being carried out. It's not just an idle threat. It's a threat made to somebody's safety, and they have the means to carry it out. Yeah.
Can you go back? Did you track juvenile curfew things on there?
I don't know if I included that, did I? I just kind of put the big ones. I do not think we have that.
I did want to see if you could mention the state laws related to that.
Right. So the city of Buda did or does have a juvenile curfew, and they just recently in the last legislative session passed a bill that it's unenforceable now. You can't enforce any juvenile curfew ordinances anymore. So we still have it on the books, but it's not enforceable, and it's not going to be enforced. Yeah. Anything else? Okay.
All right. As I mentioned, we're in the heat of our summer, and everyone's going to start watering their yards again, and it's a good time to talk about water conservation. And I also mentioned that the City Council recently made some changes to the drought ordinance or water conservation ordinance. These two graphs show our water demands. One shows it month over month from a comparison of this current year in orange to last year in blue. So you can see between January and May, our water usage on a daily basis remains pretty stable. People aren't irrigating their lawns as much. It starts to pick up a little bit in May when people start turning their systems on, and typically it's wet during the spring. But again, it remains fairly flat. But in June, July, August, September, and even into October, because people forget to turn their systems off again in the fall, you see our daily water usage increase pretty sharply. So during the month of May, for example, our average daily demand was just over 2 million gallons per day for all of the customers, and we have about 6,500 accounts for the city of Buda. The graph on the bottom just shows you a snapshot of May of 2023. It shows our water production by type. The orange is our GBRA source. So we get water right now currently from two areas, the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority. That water is coming in via San Marcos. San Marcos has a water treatment plant, and it's piped up through Kyle and into Buda. We also generate our own water through the Barton Springs Edwards Aquifer wells that we have in the community. Barton Springs is in, I don't remember the exact name of their drought stage, but it's critical. It's bad. We've been in a hard drought over the last few years, so they've really curtailed our water that we can take from the Barton Springs Edwards Aquifer. So that's blue. It's a little bit less, but normally these are a little bit more balanced out when we're not in drought restrictions. Luckily, we did start to see some more rain in late April and May. That's reflected in the yellow on the chart. So you can see we had some good rainfall events, almost 2 inches received back on May 13th. But again, we'll see water uptick again here in June, especially now that we're in 100-degree temperatures already this year. But I wanted to tell everyone about some of the changes to the drought ordinance requirements. The city of Buda is currently in drought stage 2. We've been in this drought stage since last summer, and our triggers for which drought stage we are in are based on our water supplier. So when Guadalupe Blanco River Authority goes into drought stage and Barton Springs goes into drought stage, those are different triggers for hitting us and when we go into a drought stage. Under the updated guidance and updated restrictions under the new ordinance, individuals or households will be restricted to 1 day per week watering, and there is no watering between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Although a soaker or a drip is allowed 2 days per week, there's still no watering between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., again, to stop that evaporative loss that occurs. And you can also water with a handheld hose 2 days a week, but not between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. But if you're using an automatic irrigation system, it's 1 day per week. And those days are depending on your house address. So again, stage 2, we're at the bottom left of this graphic here. If you are a odd resident, so your address ends in a 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9, your watering day is Wednesday. If you're if your number ends in an even number, your watering day is Thursday. Our commercial or multifamily accounts water on Tuesday. We do water our athletic fields on Tuesday and Friday. And again, there's other requirements. You can hand water 2 days a week, but again, nothing between 11 and 7. Protected trees. Protected trees are those that are considered 8 inches and higher in diameter. So we want to make sure and take care of trees. So you can water those any day, but again, only you can't do it between 11 and 7 p.m. Non-commercial vehicle washing. So that means if you're washing your car in your own driveway, you can do that 2 times a week, any time of the day. There is a requirement that you have a positive shut-off device, so a handheld thing where it turns off when you're not using it. Filling of pools is prohibited under stage 2, and then you should be covering 50% of your pool when not in use under stage 2. If we advance to stage 3, we're not predicting that or projecting that right now. The weather outlook is showing a wetter summer now that can't remember if it's El Nino or La Nina. I get them mixed up, but it's shifted. It's shifted to the wetter one. But if we did move to stage 3, our watering times would change to only allow it between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. or 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. We tried to keep it catchy, so if you think of 7-11, those are your times to water. You can either not water between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., or if we go to stage 3, you can only water between 7 and 11, either in the morning or the morning or evening. Melissa, I think we're doing well on time, so if you wanted to go over some of the comp plan sides, we can do that.
I do, and then I want to show a map that I sent you in Teams. I don't know if you...
Okay, so let's go back up here. I don't know how to unhide your slides, though. Imagine you right-click on them and do something.
Thanks for allowing me to come back up with some exciting news regarding our comprehensive plan. So the city did afford us the opportunity to really look at redoing the comprehensive plan. It was more than 10 years out of date. So the city said, yes, this would be a good time. Let's look at our comprehensive plan. And that's the long-range plan for the city. So how do you want to finish growing out? What kind of land uses do you want? And where's your growth going to go? So we are in the comp plan process. However, we are not through entirely the comp plan process. So we have done some public engagement. We're really getting to the time to where we're doing some drafts. We actually have a Planning and Zoning Commission and a Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee joint meeting next Tuesday. So it'll be exciting to kind of see some of the drafts on that and to get some feedback. But then we will continue through the engagement process and look for adoption, honestly, towards the end of the calendar year. So in addition to the comprehensive plan, the city is also looking at a downtown master plan, which is a much more specific plan of the downtown. And then we're looking at a corridor study for 1626. As everyone knows, we do still have some very large vacant parcels along 1626. What do we want the uses to be out there? How are we going to get utilities to that area? And what do we want the land uses to be? So we're really kind of looking at those three different plans, but looking at them together as well. So far in the engagement, we've had quite a few open houses. We have surveys. We currently have a survey out now. I think we've bombarded everyone with these surveys, but they really are a good way to get some touch points and public engagement. Our current survey that's still out is really focused on trails and the master plan. That's a component of this as well. It's an 8-question survey. So if you are connected to your HOA or different groups, I'd love for you to share that with your family and friends. We are lucky enough to have not only all the current boards and commissions that really serve in capacity with that City Council has appointed. I regularly work with Planning and Zoning Commission and also Historic Preservation Commission that have looked and are engaged into these plans. But we also have a comprehensive planning steering committee and a downtown plan steering committee. So those really two committees also appointed by council have really gotten kind of down and dirty in these plans. But again, we'll definitely bring it back to you to continue to get some feedback. So as we continue through the summer, we'll continue with the plan development, and then we'll be looking at really towards adoption at the kind of winter of this year. And our website is our Buda, pretty easy, but we're really looking at maybe piggybacking off of that and looking at some of the goals of community mobility, activity, and economy within the comprehensive plan. And again, a big proponent of a comprehensive plan that most developers really look to is what is your future land use? Does that support the use or the zoning change that I would want in that area? And we too are looking at updating and having a whole new land use plan that we'd love to get some feedback on. And these are very rough drafts so far, but then also really looking at a trails plan too. Where are we going to have those trails? Where are they going to go? How are they going to connect? So really our next steps in this are we're looking at continuing our trails survey, a couple more weeks on, or a week or so on that. We do have a P&Z workshop next week. We're going to have the downtown master plan up on the website and ready for public review. I highly encourage you to look at that as well. And then we'll continue through open house and kind of the draft process. So ourbuda.com is the place for everything, a long-range plan for us right now that the city is working on. Do you have your, do I have a second if I showed kind of that? Do you have your... I did, I think. Oh, but I'm not sure. So, our GIS, Leah, has really kind of helped us out with this. This is on our city website in our map area, but we've just titled it kind of commercial development. This is a work in process for sure, but I wanted to highlight that you can kind of see proposed projects that are coming in. So like, for example, Stream was one that I talked about in the slideshow. You can get a little 411 on the project. They even highlighted a website that the developer is proposing for this, so you can see on that. But so kind of interactive. I am. That's what I'm going to do because I missed it in the slideshow, but I really wanted to kind of highlight the well. Again, these are kind of internal names or developer names that they give to these projects. You can look at the acreage, kind of what they're planning there, and the general uses of what types of uses that they're planning on this. So I'm hoping that we can continue so you can kind of see projects that are in proposed, and then some that are in construction or planned and phased. And then I think we've highlighted some of the stuff downtown that's recently opened as well, like J Park Saloon, so you can kind of see it graphically related to a map of things that are going on in Buda. And I didn't really concentrate it in the slides, but you know, the city has had talks, and I'm sure you've seen kind of on the persimmon development and different things, so you can kind of take a look. And then as we'll continue to have information available and updated on the site, because it is never done, it's always a work in process, but I'm kind of excited to be able to feature that. And again, we have, of course, I'm a planner, so I'm kind of a map nerd, but we have lots of great maps online showing kind of where current utilities are, where existing neighborhoods are. And again, this is just another tool that we can show development that's in the process or coming in online. So thanks, Micah. So it's on. So if you go to our city website, and maybe I can talk to Lamario and she could do a featured link, but this is budatx.gov is our website, and you can go to development services, and I believe we have a direct maps and GIS link over here. And Buda Maps is also a quick way to get there as well, but it really does have all of our different types of maps, and I think it's called City Development Map on the right-hand side here. So, gosh, there's so many great things. There's like a little parks tour on here, and again, our utilities and infrastructure. So as a citizen and developer alike, you can kind of see some cool stuff going on with some of our GIS and mapping. Thank you, Micah.
All right, we will leave some time for questions, but I wanted to highlight some of the things we have coming up over the next several months in terms of community events. You will notice that a lot of our community events are clustered in the spring and the fall just because it's so hot during the summer. But one of our biggest events is coming up. It's our 4th of July event, Red, White, and Buda. It will be at City Park. It's a full day of activities. We do have a kids' bike parade starting at 9 a.m. Down Main Street. The bikes will line up in the parking lot across from Garcia's. Kids are encouraged to decorate their bikes. There's prizes for the most festive and most creative. And then the bike parade will ride down Main Street to City Park. We'll take a break for a few hours, and then we have a cornhole tournament starting at City Park at 4. We have a lot of activities and kids things starting at 4:30. I don't know that axe throwing is necessarily a kids thing, but there will be axe throwing, but there will be bouncy houses and rock climbing wall. And then we have live music starting at 5 with two groups out of Austin, Honeymoon Austin and Austin Nines, followed by our fireworks show starting at dark around 9:15. If you're brand new to Buda, it's a great time to come out. We shoot the fireworks off from Stagecoach Park, so you have a pretty good view of them kind of wherever you are around town, but it does become, there's a lot of traffic downtown as people try to get close to the fireworks. We also have a partnership with our arts group, Inspired Minds, and a group that they work with, the Central Texas, I can't remember the name, Central Texas Theater Academy, thank you. They're putting on an outdoor performance of Grease the Musical. They did Shrek the Musical last year, but Grease the Musical will start very soon. Their first dates are starting on June 30th, and it'll last through July 16th. They are at the Buda City Park Amphitheater. An event that we do not host as a city, but we provide a grant for, is the Margarita Salsa Festival. This is an event that's been going on for 20-something years, but only recently in Buda. Last year was the first year they did it in Buda, but it's done by a local promoter. And of course, Pat Green's the highlight of the event. He helped create the event, and it's been going on again for 20 years. But this will be Saturday, August 19th. This is a ticketed event, and those tickets can be purchased at visitbuda.com, which I'll point out is not associated with the city of Buda. The city is visitbudatx.com, but this other group has that website, and that's where you can purchase tickets for that. We do have a virtual open house upcoming. We talked about our comprehensive plan, our downtown plan, and we hadn't talked about our transit plan quite yet. But we are doing an update to our transit study. We last did this in 2016. This would be an opportunity for people that are looking for transit opportunities to do like a park and ride from Buda into either South Park Meadows bus station or even into downtown. This transit study will help finalize and help determine some of that information, but it's being done in partnership with Cap Metro. But we will have a survey coming out June 28th through July 12th where people can take that and provide more information on what they'd like to see in terms of transit. Our library has awesome programs throughout the summer, highlighted by the summer reading program. So they had their kickoff back on June 2nd, but they have numerous activities each week for kids and adults alike. They started off a chess program this summer that's Wednesday evenings, and last night they had it when I left work, and they had probably 25, 26 people out here playing chess. It's really, really cool to see. We also have classes for older adults. You can see a lot of those have already happened in the past, but June 27th is the next one, which is Advanced Care Planning Made Easy. All of these things can be found at budalibrary.org. You can get on their email list and see what all the programs are that they have coming up. I think they also have an astronomy night coming up here at the end of June or July. I can't remember, but that is coming up soon as well. Everyone is, of course, gearing up for the next election, which will be November 7th. We'll have two things on the ballot this fall for the city. The first will be a charter election. The last time we looked at our charter and made some amendments to that was in 2017. And by our charter, we have to look at it every 6 years. So there's a charter committee that is currently meeting and looking at that. And I know they have some minor changes that they're going to put out to the community. And then we do have 3 council positions that are up. The mayor, an at-large position number 2, and single-member District B are all up for election this November. And that is the end of our presentation. We're happy to answer any other questions you might have about things happening in and around Buda. We're glad that you're here. If you don't want to ask in front of everybody, we'll hang out and you can ask us afterwards, but please help yourself to cookies and water that we have out in the lobby as well. But thanks everyone for coming.